say, through materiality, you get this kind of emotional effect. Finding your brother, right, who were fallen. And she actually also described the sequencing of the names. Right? Instead of, in America, right, the alphabet, all the people who died. No way, right? Why do you want to, she says, you don't want to find your brother, right, amongst a whole bunch of, James. So instead of that, it's according to the time of their death. And it's just, so that's why there's this date, right? So you go to the date, and then before you come to the memorial, you find out, the date, and then so you can go to the actual panel, right, to see your, to find your brother's name. And then some people etch, the name onto a piece of paper. So what I want to talk about, in a way, is that sometimes it is about ideas. Right? Sometimes it really is about ideas. Although these days, it's almost impossible to win like this. Right? And the point with the one stage, it never happens anymore precisely because of that. Right? The owners want control. There's no control. Right? When they set as two stage, wow, this is an Asian lady, maybe we cut them out. So the second stage, then they can handpick more precisely, right, the candidates. All right, I think that's it on that one. Number two is this museum designed by the Dutch architect Riddick in Belgium. So this is limited competition. I don't know whether it's invited or open, but it was limited. As in, not everybody can compete. The memorial was open to anybody. Anybody as, you don't need any qualification, architectural. This, you have to be an architect, obviously. So 55 entries, two stage. So similar to what Sebastian had talked about. Usually kind of no fee or very little fee in the first stage. And then second stage, you get more money to kind of articulate the idea. 2,000. Okay, so this is, you might have seen this building. Located here, okay, in the port city of Antwerp. So it had a few intentions. There's this collection of the sea history, the maritime history of Antwerp, of Belgium, and there's the Museum of Art. So from three collections, it came into consolidated into one location, and the choice of the site, in a way, is very similar to Bilbao. Right? This was a port area, dilapidated, and a bunch of kind of prostitution and drugs. So they were hoping to bring culture into this place, to maybe revitalize, to bring private investments to this place. So notice this is the site. Okay. So they only use a quarter of it, maybe half, 1/3 of it. And this is waterway. Yeah, that's the sea. So first phase, 1990, there were 55 submissions, including Tadao Ando, Narashumi, Future Systems, and a number of kind of high-profile architects. Ando only did that. So that was their original scheme. Shumis I cannot find. Somewhere here, Raphael Vignoli. So out of the first phase, the clients include the museum people and professionals, and city planners, and so on. So they selected 5 to go onto the second stage. Notice, maybe you can read it. Yeah. Notice what's the difference between the 5 schemes. So I can just tell you, the clearest difference is that all 4 of these schemes are flat or low-lying and low profile, trying to respect maybe the context because the city is relatively low. But they approached it in a different way. And the reason was because of their research. And they made the argument that before MAS, before this museum, in the city of Anwar, were 3 towers. The Tower of God, Cathedral. There is the Tower of Money, the bank, and then Tower of Power, the police headquarters. The problem is that none of these were accessible to the public. So they were symbols, right, in the kind of the skyline, right, of the city. So their idea is to come up with Tower culture for the people to reclaim the city, physically and visually. So how do you do that? So they proposed this, right, which is a series of stacked, say, houses or stacked exhibition spaces. And then they introduced this spiraling street that they call, right, that spirals up the building. And these were diagrams made for the second phase. Stacked houses, extension of the street, up the building. One of the most amazing thing is they made it public. Public as in non-ticket. You don't need to pay to go here. Only when you go here, you pay. And so as a kind of a socialist, taking a socialist position that public institution, right, public funded, right, institution should be free. And then, say, clad, right, these moments with glass. And then this last diagram is about roof of the city. In other words, for the first time, that's their argument. Because I don't know if it's true. I don't know the Anwar that well. But for the first time, you can go up there and say appropriate, take your city visually for free. Right? That's amazing. And then the diagrams that they made talk about the technical aspects, structural aspects, and then this is the most interesting one. Right? It talks about really just 3 aspects: outside environment, the internal displayed environment. Right? So it's thermally and in terms of humidity is all stable and controlled. But this gray zone is where it's the mediation. It's halfway. Right? So it's not. So there's a buffer. Right? Before you go from outside to the collection, you actually go through a buffer zone. So the humidity is not as stable. It's not, say, climatically controlled. But the point is, it's not very. It's not about spending a lot of time making it very realistic, but through diagramming, through simple kind of techniques to reinforce the idea. And diagrams like this, talking about, okay, as you spiral up the building, you get a kind of view, right, out to the city. So the collection is the green, rotates about 90 degrees as you go up. And one thing very interesting that they did is to make a kind of storage public. Public as in you can see it. It's a kind of open storage. Anyways, and then there are these kind of non-conventional drawings that reinforces, again, the concept. Right? So from the top, there's a Z elevation. As you move up the building, the different views one might see. And as you move up that public street diagonally, that's the city that you are engaging with. So this is not about realism, right? Not about making things look very real, but say supporting and articulating the idea. This is just a zoom in. Okay, and then do these kind of non-realistic, non-single point perspectives. But again, to talk about the idea, more about the idea than anything else. And then execution. Took maybe 10 years to build from the start, but all the way down to the detail. They talk about using these glass curtain facades and the kind of curvature, right, about 1 meter wide, so that the individual is kind of is enhanced. It's not always about the collective, but there are moments where you're just within this enclosure, and only you can fit in. Yeah? So one of my favorite projects. Anyway, so that's all I have. Yeah?
girl? Is
Yes.
she still around?
Yeah. Chinese girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. She is around.
She's still around.
I collaborated with TC.
Yes, we are working together. Our project, yes. So it's not as young as that, but still very.
Neither are you.
I think she's slightly older than me.
Yeah?
We met in somewhere, we do a project together. And then bring the slide, I should bring.
Okay, I will talk about more different aspects. Most of about representation, how you need to present your work. This is a kind of business sentence. In the modern business, it uses to be a creative, original thinker, unless you can also sell what you create. So you can be the most enlightened person, but if you don't know how to communicate, it will be difficult that people understand. So management cannot be expected to recognize a good idea unless it's presented to them by a good presenter. Like I am not actually. So, as you can see, just present an idea, it's just sometimes more important the idea itself. This is required time. And then when you approach a competition, it's a good, really, time to spend in thinking about strategy. So as Patrick showed us, there's always a good concept in the back, but then you need to know how to represent. This is very important. It's a key that just you need to always consider. So let's talk about different parts. One is layout. So start during your thinking about the concept of the project. At the same time, start to think about layout. Okay, how you need to represent your strategy. Basically, you can using a grid to start to lay out your stuff. You can say, I can put a plan, maybe here I can put a rendering, here a nice section. Of course, this is a kind of, you can think about during the process, okay? Because you start to have an idea about what you want to represent in terms of concept and project, and then you start to make your layout. Then, consider the visual hierarchy. So, you will want some of your imaging to receive more visual attention than others. So you need to guide the jury member through your projects, because you are not there to explain. You will have panels and hopefully some text. So the people pass through, and if you want to stop on your project, they need to be guided. So usually, for example, you can sketch your layout before start. And just put, even using sample of other projects. Usually what I've done, just take the image you like and just put over there, and you get an idea about what you want to represent. Of course it will be different because your project will be different. But then you can get the feeling about what you want to represent. Then, for example, when you show plans, elevation, it's a good idea to have the same scale. Please don't change scale. At least you don't want to give more importance to one drawing. For example, you have plans and then a big sections in different scale, because this is your drawings, key drawings of your pen, right? So, the same presentation need to look like it's being thoroughly thought and planned. So the jury member need to see that you think about the layout. It's not just like put everything over there, just like last seconds, right? Some sample of layout. You can see clearly that there's a kind of thought before this layout. I mean, always a key drawings in each panels. And usually, for example, as you can see, there's a lot of space to understand the drawing. It's not so full, not so empty. You should find like right balance. So, again, when you put panels, this is like European competitions that are quite popular, and usually there are 3 panels, and you need to decide how you can show the main features. So you can see it's quite empty, this panel, but then the emptiness sometimes is good because you can give more space to understand the drawing, to read the drawings. Sometimes it's not a good strategy to just fill the panel until you have no space. And always, if you fix about colors, for example, there's just like 1, 2 key colors, not so many. Okay? If we're talking about background, try to keep your background plain, unless just is a very important feature of the key images. As you can see, usually white background will make your image and text stand out. Usually, it's like very general suggestion. Try to avoid using background images because often can be distracting. Instead of a plain background. And then don't use, as I said, many colors. Maybe 1, 2, and if you have graphics with more color, try to choose a palette of colors. Choose a kind of fading and just help the guiding of your project. See? 2 colors probably. But again, you can see, for example, this group of architects, they use the layout in a different way. They consider like 2 panels as a 1. So you can see the plan in this case invade the other board and just be considering as a 1, right? And then you have the 3rd panel with some view. But again, the image here is just fading with the background. There's no sky or stuff. So the white line just disappear and this became again schemes and then again a rendering. So you see, you can easily read. You have a plan, but then for example here, the sky is just fading in the plan, and then sections, again some details, small graphics, and then 2 big images. So you need to use a good balance between key drawings and small drawings and graphics to support the key drawings, and maybe some text. Again, this is more planning competition, but you can see that actually it's quite elegant. You have a right combination of colors, key drawings, small drawings, graphics, text. And actually, after that, you can just go close and maybe read and have more information about what you are watching. Or you can use black and white layout, sometimes very strong, no colors at all, but then you have a consistent result. So usually this strategy you can choose during the process because you need to fit with your concept. We're just now talking about representation, considering that you have a good project. So good presentation cannot save you guys if you have a bad project. So we just are talking about that you have an amazing project and then you need to work on an amazing presentation. If we about content, what we need to put inside. So make sure that you select images and drawings that explain your design. So imagine that you are viewing this project for the first time, what you want to see in order to understand it. So you should be objective, just putting you far away and see, is clear my message or I need to improve it? Because sometimes we are working weeks, months, and then we are in project and we know everything, and we are sure that everyone understands. But then probably the message is not clear because we know the project, but another one don't know. And some message can be lost. Of course, you can put floor plans, section, elevation, and 3D drawings, but be sure that you have key drawings. Okay, 2, 3, not so many. Okay, you need to have one message. Usually, key drawing should represent the main concept, and then you have other sub-concepts that, of course, can be useful to understand the project and less important. Let's go through. I'll just select some winner panel of some competition. As you can see, always you have a key drawing. In this case, is one rendering. But then even this, that is a plan and some axonometry, it's also important. But I think you will be catched by this image, and then you will read this one. Let's see another sample. In this way, it's a kind of balance, but then probably it's a kind of, probably we have two key drawing these panels, but they are not complete. Okay, this is like graphics, explain taxonometry, and this is an image. And then other small to explain other features of the project. And if you can see all these, they are not so colorful, just like one or two, as I said. Again, this one. Probably this was the aim of the competition, to have one big image to represent, and then other like section plans and axonometry view. So text also is important. Don't forget to put text. Sometimes good drawings can be self-explanatory, but make sure to use some text to highlight the main feature of your project. Don't use many fonts, just one or two, and even the hierarchy of the text. Some big text from the main issues, and then probably small one and even small one for the graphics. So hierarchy about text, and of course make sure that you're choosing a font and size is readable, and keep your sentence short and punchy. So don't use text. Nobody will read an essay, of course, of your focus. And then some general tips. So presentation is important as well as project. Start to think on your presentation from the beginning, when you start to think about concept. Then give yourself time. It's a shame when you have to spend weeks and months on the same project and leave yourself an hour or two to focus on the presentation board. Many times happens. Okay, this is also advice for your final projects. So use negative space. Don't fill your board with useless information. Use negative space to set up your design and make it stand out. Use key drawings, usually one or for each board, to drive the attention of the jury members. And then identify keywords to highlight the concept for your project. Jury members need to keep in mind the message of your project. These are really general tips that you need to follow. And just let's close with one sample. It's the Guggenheim Museum in Helsinki. This was 1,700 entries, almost like the memorial of Maya Lee. This is the second stage of the project. So they already, I forgot to put the first stage. But anyway, you can see the clear strategy of the winners. The first three drawings, black and white, simple, and we see details later. And then three boards, only images. But the good thing, the amazing thing, that the first drawings in hand drawings. It's an amazing